Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Million Dollar Body Podcast, the intersection of physical and financial success. I'm your host, Nate Palmer, and today we have an incredible episode for you. I'm so excited to be talking with Ryan Shekell. He is the host of the Every Breath Counts podcast, and it's something that if you haven't checked out before, you're going to need to because it's not just another name where it's all about inspiration and motivation, but Ryan is actually has been diagnosed with cystic fibrosis. He's one of 70,000 people living in the US with cystic fibrosis. It's a debilitating lung disease that will shorten your life. And Ryan has been working on inspiring others to live their best lives through his podcast and through his lifestyle. So Ryan, I'm so pumped that you're here, brother. It's going to be such a fun episode.
Dude, Nate, thank you so much for having me. It is an honor and a privilege to be here. Your book, The $1 Million Body Method, it changed my outlook and perspective on fitness. It was an awesome blueprint just to show people exactly how to dial in every aspect of their fitness, of their career. And dude, it was awesome. And you're still one of my favorite guests I've ever had on the podcast.
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that. So in case you didn't get a chance to check out our podcast we did together, I think Ryan released that like 3 or 4 weeks ago on the Every Breath Counts podcast. So go check that out. Listen to his other stuff. He just had Nick Trevelyan on, founder of the Triumphant Life. But so this guy's been doing everything, and his podcast is just so inspiring and so motivational. So Ryan, if you're in a room and you're like, it's not just like where you're like trying to like avoid people and like not talk to people. Like that's my go-to. But like if you're trying to like impress somebody that you just met for the first time, how are you introducing yourself? How do you talk about yourself?
That's so funny, man, because I am a talker. And it's funny that you say like, oh, you're going to show up in a room and you're just going to want to like sit back in the back and not talk to anyone. I'm going to be the first person that goes and talks to every single person in that room. I want to know who they are. I want to know their backstory. I want to know what they're passionate about. So first and foremost, I think if you're ever in this situation, at a party, you don't know what to say, the last thing you want to do is tell your impressive story, right? Like go ask questions and learn about other people. However, this is an interview podcast, and Nate, I will give you a little bit about me. But look, dude, I shouldn't be here, man. I'm 38 years old. I shouldn't have the job that I have. I shouldn't have the family that I have. Dude, I shouldn't be alive right now. And that's a crazy thing to say, but I was diagnosed with cystic fibrosis when I was 18 years old. And it's something that I was born with. I just didn't really know it. I wasn't diagnosed with it. And when I was diagnosed at 18 years old, dude, my doctors told me I'd live to be 30, which is crazy. I'm 18 years old. And I'm thinking, that's 12 years from now. What am I going to do in the last 12 years of my life? And I think the biggest thing that I would say about my mindset to this, which really has helped propel me through my life, is I just decided, no, like that's not my future. And that's not what I'm going to accept for myself. And I'm going to work tirelessly every single day of my life to make the best life I can for myself.
Man, that's crazy just to hear that at 18, because I feel like as 18-year-olds, and I remember that was not so long ago, but like my mindset was like, I'm invincible. I can do whatever I want to.
Yeah.
I got no like upper limits. I'm probably going to live to be 100, like that's light years away. So what was that like getting that news? And I love what you said. You're change your mentality to be like, no, like I refuse to accept that. How did that manifest?
Yeah, so there's a lot that was going through my mind, obviously, at this point. And at the time, I was graduating from high school. I was going into college on a baseball scholarship. So I'm an athlete, kind of an athlete. I was a pitcher. So it's like, I was kind of an athlete, like I did some running and like lightweight workouts. I could throw a ball hard. But it's the same mentality, man. Like I thought I was invincible. And I didn't know why, like I couldn't gain weight or why I coughed a lot. But to me, it didn't mean anything. It was just something that I was dealing with. I coughed. I had allergies maybe. So when I was told that I'd only live to be 30 years old, yeah, man, it hits you hard. And it really kind of like like I say that I denied it maybe. Um, but it's still a doctor, it's still an expert that has more experience than you sharing a projection for your future. And I didn't really truly know how to deal with it. I think I just kind of internalized it. And it's something that I've always done when I kind of face adversity or hard times is I shut it out. I shut the world out and I just kind of take one step at a time. And I think that's all you really can do. So what was step one? Well, step one was, okay, well, I need treatment because I've been dealing with this for 18 years. I didn't know about it. So I immediately went into the hospital and got some IV medication, some lung therapy, some nutrition. I spoke to experts. I started to learn, right? And knowing is so important. Knowing what you're going against and also knowing how to overcome it is such an important step in moving forward. So, step one, yeah, I'm saying I'm not going to accept this as my fate. But realistically, look, I was scared. I mean, there was tears shed. I cried a lot, a lot. But I didn't let it stop me from taking the next step forward.
Wow. I like what your kind of your mentality around it was head down, do the next thing. Control what can be controlled. And also like in terms of like denying it, I like that you also didn't deny it and be like, no, I'm fine. I'm an athlete. I'm a pitcher. I'm good to go. Like you're off. You were like, no, that's like that. I see what you're saying. I'm going to do what I can do, control what I can control. But it doesn't mean I'm not going to like learn about what's going on and take the steps that I need to take in order to get the results that I need to get in order to live the life I want to live. So, like, how did you feel like going into college and kind of walking through that? How do you feel like you started viewing your life? Because, until you hit 30, you didn't really know what was going to come down the pipe. So like, I'm certain that had to change your mentality and your outlook. And obviously that's reflected in your podcast. Every breath counts, right?
Yeah. So this is an interesting question, right? When I went to college, 18 years old, my mom, super supportive of me, right? She's phenomenal. She called the college and she said, look, my son just got diagnosed with this disease. He needs to do medication every single day. He has all this medication he needs in a fridge, and then he's got to do this therapy. Is there any way we could get him into a single dorm room? And they said, sure, like it wasn't a big deal. They were able to accommodate that for me. And it was kind of the first time in my life where I was like, people are curious. Like, why am I in a single dorm room? Like, I'm just diagnosed with this disease. I'm a little self-conscious about it. Like, I don't want to be perceived as different, and now I'm in the single dorm room. I have to take all this medication. I mean, to this day, I take 7 pills with everything I eat. Dude, have you ever seen anyone take a handful of pills, just shove them in their mouth and just down a bunch of pills? Like,
just dry swallowing?
I was self-conscious. I kept it in my pocket and I'm like sneaking pills in my mouth, like trying to eat so I can actually gain weight, right? So I had this like self-consciousness that came along with it. And one of the things that I would say is like, I didn't want to be defined by my disease. I didn't want to be defined by my adversity. So in a lot of ways, I hid it. And then I leaned in on my strengths so that it would overshadow the struggles that I was going through. So like I probably was a little bit overconfident in a lot of ways when it came to things that I was good at, and almost to the point where it might have been narcissistic, just kind of like shoving aside the things that I was really self-conscious about. And I think that's probably something a lot of people go through every single day.
Well, like you said, when you walk into a room, you're going to go out and talk to everyone else. So it sounds like obviously you're an outgoing guy. Would you define yourself as an extrovert?
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I cut my teeth in like the sales industry too. Okay. So like I have no problem talking to anybody.
Starting conversations up. So you're leaning into that sort of thing because you're like, listen, I'm more than my diagnosis. Like, I don't want even to tell people about that because I don't want you to start thinking differently of me. By the way, here are the things that I am great at.
Yes. Yeah. So, and I was probably too forthcoming with the things I was great at, right? Like, and I would say a lot of people were likely turned off by the fact that like, I would tell if I had a good game playing baseball, dude, I would tell everybody. And to the point where it's like, I was probably neglecting a lot of what my friends were doing right beside me, And it's something that I look back on. I'm like, man, like I may have had much deeper friendships if I was more supportive of the people that were around me. And I had some deep friends and I was a team guy, but I was always kind of making up for the fact that there was something else that was really kind of slowing me down a little bit that I didn't want anyone to know about.
Gotcha. Interesting to have that kind of introspection that even in that moment when you were going through so much that people didn't really know about, you're like, no, I could have probably done a better job and been a better friend. So, I mean, even that like mentality, I feel like really speaks to who you are and like the character you've developed.
Yeah. But what's crazy is like, I didn't know it going through it, like I was just thinking like, yeah, I'm good at this baseball stuff. I'm excelling at school. I'm making friends. Right. And I knew a lot of people, but how great were those friends? I've got some great friends from that time. I think in looking back though, you just wonder like, man, could I have done something different? And a lot of what I've realized, 15, 20 years down the road now is that I don't want to be defined by my disease. I don't want to be defined by cystic fibrosis or the adversity that I was going through. But looking back, the things that I'm most proud of are overcoming the things that I went through. So I'm happy now, 20 years later, to say, I didn't want to be defined by cystic fibrosis. I'm totally cool being defined by overcoming what came with having cystic fibrosis. And that's kind of what I'm now leaning into, is just trying to help other people say like, dude, you got to be the hero of your own story, right? Like you should be looking at yourself as a hero and be proud of it. Be proud of it and bring other people along with you.
I like that distinction too, because maybe it's because I'm a narcissist. When you're like, if I had a good baseball game, I told people about it. I'm like, yeah, tell them, because like, I don't think a lot of us clap for ourselves in that way. There's a difference between being like, hey, we had a really good game. I struck a lot of people out, whatever. And being like, I'm actually the king, so there's like that fine line. Yeah. And like, I love that idea, like being the hero in your own story. One thing I like to I think about a lot, and I try to tell clients is like, hey, no one's coming to save you. No one's coming for you. Like no one cares about you more than you do. So like, and this is like a lot of the kind of the way I'm looking at like health and fitness, right? Not necessarily dealing with like chronic lifelong diseases, but like if you have that self-esteem and that confidence that comes from being that hero and being able to accept like, hey, I am good at stuff. I am a good athlete. I am good at school. Like, I think that gives you even if there's like some people who are turned off by you, I guarantee you there's other people who are like, that's my guy right there, So I like that mentality, man.
Yeah. And I think you'd probably agree with this. So I'll just ask you is, what do you think is the biggest step into starting your journey to success? Like, how do you get started? What is it?
Honestly, like I love what you said earlier when you said, I could control what I could control. I put my head down. I took the first step. I think that's the people who are successful. That's what they do. The people who are unsuccessful long-term, and again, speaking from health and fitness, is they look up, they take their head out of the water and they're like looking around and being like, oh my gosh, there's so many things to do. I could pick keto or veganism or this or resistance training or cardio. And they don't pick one thing and take one step. So like, that's like, to your point, that's success for me.
I agree with that 100%. And I think this is an important distinction too, because I am a giant advocate. And I know that you wrote in your book about working out in the morning. I am a giant advocate of winning the morning, no matter what your goals are, right? Like if I'm battling a disease, if I'm starting a new job, if I'm looking for a job, if I'm battling depression, I don't care what it is, right? The best way to overcome that adversity in your life is to aggregate wins. And it starts in the morning, right? So I truly believe if you set your alarm clock before the time you want to get up, doesn't matter what it is. If you normally wake up at 7, set it for 6:55. If you normally wake up at 5, 4:55. If you normally get up at 11 without an alarm clock, dude, set it at 10. right? Like, I'm not asking you to get up at 3 a.m, but set your alarm clock before you want to get up. And what that's going to do for you is that's going to give you a win to start the day. When that alarm goes off, get out of bed. Don't ask any questions. Take a deep breath. That's another strategy of mine. So deep breath, get out of bed. You won, man. Like, you just got your first win of the day. Now, what are you going to do with it? Because everyone that gets a win builds off those wins. It's the law of aggregate gains, right? So you've gotten out of bed. Well, now what? Well, okay. I know you talk about doing 60 seconds of high intensity training, or 90 seconds, 60 or 90? 60 seconds of high intensity training first thing in the morning. All right, well, dude, you're up. Hit the ground, man. Get some burpees in. Get those burps, and then and then go get something good to eat. Dude, you've won 1, 2, 3 things within 15 minutes of being awake. Dude, the rest of your day, it should be a cakewalk.
Snowball,
like, you're primed and ready to go. And I love the idea of aggregating wins on top of each other because it begins momentum. And the hardest thing to do is to get moving. It's inertia. Get the ball rolling and just ride that wave.
That big mo. I love that. Yeah, I 100% agree with you. Stacking those wins first thing, like, then it's easy to get that next win. It's easy to do those things. That's why I love supplements a lot, because I think supplements, like, it makes it very easy to make get a health-minded win or make a health decision in the morning, which continues to roll into the next day. So, like, regardless of if those fat burners or whatever you're taking are doing anything for you, I still think from a mental perspective, you're getting that W. And I love what you said, aggregate those wins, stack them up. So I was curious. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, so your dude, Nikki T, he talks about this too. And it's not supplements. And this is where I'm going to push back a little bit on supplements. And I love supplements. I take more than anyone ever should, probably. But don't not start because you don't have your supplements. And dude, if you're relying on a pre-workout to get going in the morning, dude, what happens when you're traveling and you left it at home? Like, are you not going to work out because you don't have your NO explode or whatever it is? Like,
or God forbid you hit the gym without headphones.
Yeah, right. Dude, and by the way, scariest dude in the gym is the dude without the headphones on.
Oh,
because you know he's battling something in his mind that's not distracting him from the pain he's putting himself through.
He's having that conversation from 7th grade.
Yeah, I like the idea of the supplements, and I take a ton of them. But I want it to be known that, like, you don't have to have a protein shake, a pre-workout, and your athletic greens, which I'm a giant advocate of, to really get started.
I love that. I think that should, like, if I didn't feel like this podcast is about other stuff, I feel like that's an amazing title, is don't wait for your supplements to get started. Because I feel like a lot of, especially guys, are like this, where we're like type A, all in. If I'm not doing X, Y, Z, and like all the way through everything, like, then why even bother, And I think that, like, the people who win, like I said, you take that first step. You might not know what steps 2, 3, 4, all the way down the line are, but you know what step 1 is and you take it. So, like, and that doesn't require a bunch of supplements. So yeah, it's a great
thing, you know what's crazy too is, like, you talk about this big win, right? And it's like, okay, I'm an alpha. I want all these supplements. Like, okay, so let's just say, you have your pre-workout, you're taking your creatine monohydrate, you have your post protein shake, you've done your greens in the morning, like, you're dialed in, veggies, protein, no carbs, like, you've got it, water, everything. I don't care how long you hit the gym that day, 8 hours, like, full body, 8 hours, run a marathon, deadlift 500 pounds. I don't care what it is. You're not going to be more fit crushing a workout like that than you will working out for 30 minutes a day for a year. Like, it doesn't need to be a big thing. Consistency is so much more important. So it's like, you should never wait to get started because you're missing a day. Like, you're missing the most important day. It's day 1, right? So get going. And then, like, do you need the supplements? Sure, get them. They're going to help you recover. It'll be great. But, like, put the work in first, Yeah,
because it's not day 1 workout. It's day 90 workout. That's really like the important one. And, like, I mean, coming from you, this is even more powerful because you're sitting here for, like, and then talking to me from your other side where you're like, I didn't know if tomorrow was coming.
Yes.
So I'm not waiting for tomorrow to do the thing, to say the thing, to go to that person, to do like what I needed to do, because it's not promised.
Yeah.
Now, can you kind of talk through that a little bit? What is that like? Because I think that a lot of us, we just assume tomorrow's coming. Like, I don't have anything
Yeah.
going on. But in reality, anything could happen at any time. And you've
Dude,
felt that.
I hope this year exemplified that for everybody. 2020, 2021. I think that we were caught so off guard by a global pandemic that it was a fitness pandemic in a lot of ways. It was a health pandemic. And I truly believe, look, I will tell you, the greatest thing that ever happened to me was being diagnosed with cystic fibrosis
Wow.
because I labeled my adversity. Dude, I knew what I was fighting. How many people don't know? Like, I have so many friends who can't have kids and they've tried and tried and tried. They don't know what's wrong. Like, I know what I'm battling every single day. So I know how to prepare for it. So to get back to your question, like, well, what's important? The most important thing is to be prepared for anything. For anything. You asked me a couple weeks ago, you said, what's your training routine like? What are you doing? What's most important to you in your fitness? And I said, I want to be able to run fast and far in case something is chasing me. I want to be able to lift a car off my kids if it falls on them. I want to be able to pack a moose out of the woods 10 miles if I have to find food for my family. And if I have to jump in the water and swim and save my kid, I want to be able to do that. Like, those are functional goals that are preparing for adversity in life. And too many people are so dead set on, like, I want biceps, I want a big chest, I want more money. Like, there are these tangible outcomes of effort, right? But it's not this overall preparation for life. Like, life is going to throw some shit at you, Nate. Like, it gets real. And I had some shit thrown at me. Cystic fibrosis it's no joke. When I was diagnosed, I had 60% lung function. I watched it fall over the next 15 years to about 30%, under 40% lung function. That's where you start talking about a lung transplant. So I had to take my life and I had to put a purpose to it. And that purpose was, I want a family, I want happiness, I want love, I want to have gratitude. And how am I going to do that? Dude, I got to be prepared for anything that's going to come my way because I know what my future looks like. It looks like not being able to breathe. So what do I do on a daily basis? I do everything I can to make it easier for me to breathe, to make it easier for me to function. And I think that's the mentality you have to have, is like, what's your goal and how do you achieve it? And what can you do every single day? Because there's things that are going to come that are externalities that you have no control over. And I love that this one guy that I work with always uses the phrase control the controllables. And it makes so much sense, right? Because it's like, you can't control what happens to you. You can't control a global pandemic. You can't control being diagnosed with a disease or having your family members diagnosed with a disease. You can't control an accident in a car. Hopefully you can, stop it from happening by being prepared, but all you can do is prepare for those things. And that's what really matters.
Wow. You said a lot of stuff in there. I wanted to go back to kind of what your view on training is. By the way, if you can carry a moose 10 miles, I'm pretty sure you can do 100% of those other things, because that's crazy. But yeah. I think, like, in the NFL, they say the best ability is availability. And so, like, how much more so is that the case for the things that are really important to us, our families, our businesses, like our health? I've like, you go on vacation or whatever, you see other tourists and you're like, I remember I went to Machu Picchu in Peru. And like, one of the things is like, hey, you got to hike up these 1,000 stairs to get to the top of Machu Picchu. And there were so many people who were like, I can't do that. I am unable to do that. Like, I do not have the ability to do something complete, like very like epic, life-changing, and like create those memories together with the people around me that I love. And like, so like, how much deeper is it when it's like, hey, you're actually fighting against this thing that is actively trying to keep you from like having and living the life you want to live? Like you said, you were able to label your adversity. You were able to put a name and a face to it. So you were able to be like, hey, I can combat this every single day because I know exactly what it is. So when you're talking about like using like those things like your gifts and everything to be able to do more and to live the life you want to live by actually like designating what are those outcomes I'm looking for and what are those pieces I want to put into play to do so. I think that's just incredibly powerful and something that we all should be taking away from this, especially this year, like you said.
Yeah, I think it's really important, Nate, to take a step back and think about what you do want to be available for. And I think that's a really great strategy in terms of outlining your life or creating a blueprint for yourself. Because some people have different goals, right? Like, I love that you went and hiked Machu Picchu. That's awesome. I've got some friends that have done that. They've said it was a life-changing experience. Like, that's great. Some people don't want to necessarily do that, but they probably want to take their dog for a walk. Or look, like, I want to play basketball in the front yard with my kids. Like, I love basketball. And I know that when I'm feeling sick, like, I get winded. And if I'm trying to make like quick movements with my kids playing basketball, like, I get winded. My kids are 9 and 6. Like, I shouldn't get winded playing basketball with them, but it's a goal of mine, right? Like, it's a purpose. It's a small thing that I want to do. One of the things when my lungs got really bad was like, I like saying prayers with my kids at night. Like, we say our prayers every single night. Dude, I couldn't get through the Our Father without coughing. Well, that's a goal, right? Like, okay, I want to be able to do this. I want to be able to do this. Like, you may want to be able to hike a mountain. You may want to be available for your kids to coach their football team. There's so many different goals people have. But when you know what you want, then you can kind of reverse engineer the steps it takes to get to that goal. So for me, I wanted to be able to have the endurance and the cardiovascular strength to not worry about what my kids wanted to do and just be able to do it. So I shifted my goals, right? Like, when I was in my early 20s, I wanted to look good, man. I was looking for a wife, and I had a beautiful girlfriend and I wanted to look as good as I could. Well, that's great. I still want to look good, but we're married now. And I want to look as good as I can for her. But more importantly, like, I want to be there for my kids. I want to be available, like you said. So I can reverse engineer that. I can say, okay, well, what does that look like? That looks like me doing more cardio, even though I don't want to because it sucks, so that I can actually chase my kids around. And it's aligning that purpose, that mission, that goal in your life with the daily habits to make it happen.
That's super powerful. And I like what you said, like, what you got to choose. What do you want to be available for? I think that's a great question to ask, because you said, okay, I want to be available for my kids. Well, what does that look like? And you kind of skipped to the next step, but you said, I want to be able to play basketball with my kids. I want to be able to say prayers at night. Okay, great. What does that look like? It means you got to do your cardio. And this guy, I'm talking about you, Ryan, this guy's sitting here in front of me telling me that cardio sucks. Also, this is, how long ago was it you did the ultra marathon?
We're coming up. It's a year next weekend.
So when this comes out, it'll be about a year ago. Last year, Ryan actually went out and ran not a marathon, because those are easy, but he ran an ultra marathon. So he went above and beyond and did that extra 5-6 miles on top of the marathon, because that was your goal, because your goal was to be available for your kids. So you took it to that next level. Also, like, it's like one of your goals, I know, is to raise money and bring awareness to cystic fibrosis and help as many people as you possibly can, both through your podcast, to the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation, and then also the fundraiser you're currently running. Yeah.
So, dude, that ultra marathon, you said you ran a marathon. I didn't know what I was getting into. But no, look, I was really fortunate, man. And this underscores the importance of being prepared and available. Okay. Because I think one of the most important things in life is building a strong foundation, maintaining your preparation, and leveraging opportunity when it comes. So for about 18 years after I was diagnosed with cystic fibrosis, I knew that I wasn't going to accept my fate of dying at 30. And at some point, someone had to find a cure, right? Like, there's going to be a cure for cancer at some point. Like we're going to find something someday. So my goal was I want to be prepared for when there is a medical advancement that is going to take the suffering away from me, that I am ready to take advantage of it. And I want to be as healthy as I can be when that comes so that I can enjoy what I have left of my lungs at that time. Well, I was really fortunate, man. Nate, dude, I was fortunate enough to get on a medication that actually changes your genes in your DNA last March. And what that
This
did
is
for
still
me,
when you're 35, 5 years after your doctor said
thir-
you were going to live to be
at 30, yeah, at 37, right?
Okay.
So at 37, I go on this medication. I'm under 40% lung function. I've watched it decline over 18 years. This is the opportunity I've been waiting for. I get on this novel new medication, and within 2 weeks, my lung function jumps to where it was when I was diagnosed in high school, 60 something percent. I feel like a new man. I've gained 15 pounds. Like I'm moving. I haven't coughed in a year right now. This is the most unbelievable medication that I've been able to go on. And I got on this medication. I said, I have worked my ass off for 18 years so that I can leverage an opportunity when it came. Like I didn't just grow my lungs overnight. Like I maintained so that I would leverage this opportunity. And I wanted to show everybody that if you built a foundation, you stayed prepared, and you leverage opportunity, you can achieve anything you want in your life. What's the hardest thing for someone that can't breathe to do? In my opinion, it was run a marathon. So I said, okay, well, people have done that. Let's do an ultra marathon. And I wanted to prove to people that within 10 months of going on this new medication, that I could run a 50-kilometer ultra marathon. I ran 1,000 miles. It wasn't an overnight success. I ran 1,000 miles preparing for this ultra. And then last October, I did run the 50K. And I will tell you, I did it. I did not beat any records, but I finished it. And I think it took 6.5 hours to run 50 kilometers. There was a ton of elevation gain. I didn't fully train for that, but it was unbelievable. But it's leveraging opportunity that I think really resonated with me in terms of building that foundation and leveraging that opportunity. And I did that to raise money for the foundation that provided a lot of the funding and research that allowed this new medication to come out. So yeah, so thanks for mentioning that. And look, I am running a 5K currently as this is released. And I'll give you the website to go to. And if anyone wants to support the CF Foundation, there's still not a cure, guys. I'm lucky. This worked for me. This isn't a cure for everybody. There's 70,000 people in the world with cystic fibrosis. Not all of them are as fortunate as I am. A lot of them are dying every single day, unable to breathe on ventilators. And it's an unfortunate thing. And this foundation is making amazing strides in research, genetic research for this disease, but also this is the pinnacle of research that will trickle down to so many other diseases that have a genetic makeup in the future. So this research they're doing not only helps cystic fibrosis, it's going to help everybody that has a genetic disease in the next 10 years.
Awesome, dude. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I'll put the link in the show notes. That's going to go beyond on from October 3rd to October 10th. So if you want to donate, or if you want to sign up and run a virtual 5K with Ryan, support him that way. Like I'll provide you a couple different ways of doing that.
Yeah, you'll probably beat me too. So,
and if you do, he's giving away fabulous prizes. You just have to reach out.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to go back to real quickly, like as we're wrapping up here, what you said about leveraging opportunities. Because when it comes down to it, like opportunities are showing up for us. Like I think that a lot of people, you're like, wow, that guy got really lucky. And you're like, wow, what an overnight success. I just heard about this guy and he's building this up. And then you see, and you look back at them and you're like, wow, it took you 5 years, 10 years to be an overnight success. And you know who that doesn't happen to? The guy with the 8-hour workout, the guy with all the supplements, that type A, all in, all or nothing mentality doesn't get those opportunities because they have not been consistent enough, long-term enough to see that through to fruition. If I'm coming with an opportunity like for someone and I see this person put in 80% for the last 5 years, they're 100% going to be my guy. If I see this person putting 100% in for 2 weeks, I don't care. I'm not looking to work with to like to like give opportunities personally to those day one evangelists, the people who are like, oh my gosh, I've been doing keto. It's been working for me. It's just amazing. Like, how long have you been doing it? They're like 3 days. I'm like, get back to me in a year. Like, let me know how it's going at that point. So what you're saying about putting 1,000 miles to train, from working like over 18 years, maintaining your lung function for the ability to get on an experimental medication because you wouldn't have been able to do it with lower lung function. Like that, like opportunities like that favor the people who are consistent, who have been showing up day in and day out without those rewards, without necessarily having to see these big progress, get these big accolades. So Ryan, dude, thank you so much for bringing it back around to that.
Yeah. And what's crazy with that too is like, you've been posting a lot about like how to get 6-pack abs, right? On the gram, and like, if you take one day and you do core the entire day, every workout that you put up, right? And you eat veggies, maybe you even fast, like you're not going to have 6-pack abs the next day. If I went out and ran, if I went out and ran an ultra marathon and ran 50 kilometers in one day, let's look at the next day. Like, cool, I did it, right? I'm not in good shape the next day. I'm just beat up and sore. Like running 1,000 miles, even if I didn't run the ultra marathon, I was in such a better place for those 1,000 miles than I would have been had I just went out and ran the marathon, right? Like for you, you won't be able to sit up or walk if you do abs all day and you haven't ever done them, Dude, if you do 5 minutes of abs and you've never done them, you might not be able to sit up the next day. But doing it constantly, like every single day, dude, you're going to have 6-pack abs in a year. I promise you that.
Even if you don't do them right, even if your form is bad and your diet's not perfect, give me that 80% consistently over time. And I know that's the person who's going to be successful long-term.
Yes.
Ryan, dude, thank you so much for being on the show and just like giving us some of your wisdom and your time. It's been such an honor to talk with you. Is there any thoughts or anything you want to leave us with? Give us that, like that. Just give us that. Yes. What do you want to tell the people at home?
So I think, the best takeaway from this conversation is you need to be the hero of your own story. And then when you're the hero of your own story, you need to be confident and courageous enough to share it with the world, because other people need to be inspired. I love this idea that nobody wants to be average, but not everybody knows how to be great. So if you have anything that you can share with the world, inspiration, education, share it. The world needs it. The world needs you to be the best version of yourself. And I have a mindset that I think works for me, and I call it a delusional optimist mindset. And I believe that if you truly believe in your heart and in your mind that success is inevitable for you, regardless of what any experts say. I'm not supposed to be alive right now. That's what my doctors told me. I don't believe that. I didn't believe that. The experts told me it was true, and I proved it wrong. Go out, prove all the haters wrong, be the greatest version of yourself you can be, and share that with the world.
Love what you said. Success is inevitable. It's something I say on this show a lot. I feel like I close with it pretty much every podcast. I say, you cannot lose if you don't quit. Success is inevitable. Ryan Shekell, thank you so much for being here. And remember, guys, if you're listening to this, go check out the podcast and then make every breath count. Thanks, brother.
Thanks, Nate.